The first section of this is going to be my non-spoiler review for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and then we're going to get into some more spoiler territories, and then, because I'm doing this a bit later, I thought it'd be fun to look at kind of the fandom's reaction to it. Obviously, I will get to each point as I get to it, and then the final bit will just be kind of like my rough thoughts on the whole thing, on the whole movie as a general, and kind of where I think the series may go from there. But I'm not going to touch on any of those last three topics until I get to them, because like I say, I do not want to spoil the movie for people who have not seen it. So the first chapter is going to be no spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, you can watch that bit, but I would say from there on, I'm going to be touching on stuff too, like the ending and stuff like that. So maybe if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to leave before then. Don't worry, I'll make it abundantly clear when we're moving on to chapter 2, the spoiler review. Wow, I'm a poet, I didn't even know it. So obviously we all knew that the animatronics were going to look really, really good. They look great. I will say, if I had to nitpick on any of the designs, it would be Withered Freddy. And I know a lot of people going into this, when we saw him in the trailers, thought, oh, his head looks a bit weird. Why does it look like he's like that? I think that may be intentional. I don't know how I feel about it, and also I have no evidence to back this up. This is kind of just my thoughts. I've been trying to figure out why the hell they would do that, because obviously it's intentional. Because I would argue an animatronic such as Withered Chica, who we also saw in the trailers, their head would be a lot more complicated. So obviously, Withered Freddy's head is probably about the same as normal Freddy's head. So it's like, clearly they chose to make his head on the shoulders. And my thinking is that they're broken down, they're old, they're withered. As the name implies, Withered Freddy's withered. I think they chose to have his head on his shoulders to show that, like, oh, he's old, he's broken, his neck is probably a bit skew with the support on it. Because there's that whole kind of thing of like, oh, Withered Freddy is like the least damaged animatronic. He's pretty much the same as classic Freddy. Obviously, he's not. If you look at this, like, oh, well, his eyes are a bit off, and he's got holes in them, and the cheeks are less pronounced, and stuff like that. But, like, if you would just go to someone who's never really seen FNAF and go, look at this bear animatronic and this bear animatronic, are they the same guy? They're gonna go, yes. I don't know if this is, I can't really justify it. Maybe it's in slight reference to Withered Gone Freddy, who's, his head is, like, the most, Withered Gone Freddy's just a big head. I think maybe it could be to about, I don't know. The animatronics look phenomenal. The animatronics just look great. I absolutely love them. Most of them look like they've stepped out of the game. Withered Freddy, like I say, he's a bit different, but I like him being a bit different. I actually quite like the change in his design. Yeah, the animatronics look great. I'd probably say this in like every single trailer review, so I'm going to try not to harp on about too much in this video, because I also have other stuff that I want to get onto. But yeah, the animatronics look great. Jim Henson's Treaty Shop, they did great. They look phenomenal. Overall score out of 10. I'm going through my notes, and it literally says overall score out of 10, and I didn't put a score. I'd say out of 10. I think I'm going to talk about this more later, but my views on this being a FNAF movie and a movie in general are different. I'm going to say overall, I'm going to give it a I'm going to say a 6.5. I was going to say 6 or 7. I'm going to go in the middle, 6.5. And I will talk about why later. This is kind of like my quick overview for people who haven't seen the movie yet. It is good. I like the movie. But there are some nitpicks and some choices that I will get to in later sections that do bump it down a little bit. And it's kind of, the more I've thought about it, the more cynical, I guess. I'm probably going to go watch it again to get a full kind of, so I can make a full opinion. Overall score out of 10, 6.5. I will get to why again. I'll get to why later, because I can't really explain why without spoiling it. But again, this is the section for no spoilers. I will say, if you have not watched the movie, I would say read the Twisted Ones. It doesn't matter if you've read The Silver Eyes, it doesn't matter if you read The Fourth Closet or Fazbear Frights, maybe a little bit Fazbear Frights, but I wouldn't say it's mandatory. You don't need, if you have to look at one bit of media before going into this movie, it is the Twisted Ones. And I know a lot of people will go, oh, the books, I don't want to read the books, and will then either just ignore that, which, I mean, it's your choice, you do what you want to do, or you try and cop out and just read the comic book version. The graphic novel version for the Silver Eyes, you can absolutely get away with reading that and not reading the Silver Eyes. I think with that, it's kind of easy to kind of, there's not too much differences, but with the Twisted Ones novel, certain things that you need to know going into this movie are actually explained in the novel, but aren't really elaborated on in the comic version. I'm trying to be careful not to specify what, because I don't want to spoil it. I will say it's nothing major like the Twisted Adam Trunks. The Twisted Adam Trunks are not in this. But like I say, it is important going in to read that book, because I promise you, if you don't know anything about the Twisted Ones, if you don't know some of the premises that they kind of talk about in that, there's a good chance you're going to be confused. Because I've read that and I've been analysing it recently, I don't know how much of that is I'm picking up on it because of me having such an understanding of the Twisted Ones, and how much is a general audience will pick up on it. I don't think, there are certain things that I do not think will make sense to a casual movie goer. If you don't think about it, it will still be, it will be a good movie whether you understand it or not. But I think if you want to understand certain bits of the movie, you kind of should just read the Twisted Ones. And again, the bits that I am thinking about, you really need to read the proper version and not the graphic novel. And like, I get, obviously if you can't read it, don't worry. I think you will still have a good time watching it, or at least I hope you will. Obviously I can't guarantee everyone's gonna like it. I mean, everyone's opinion's different. But I will say it's gonna be quite useful to read the full version if you are able to. Or to watch like a summary video. I know Dorco did one for the Silver Eyes. I don't remember if he did one for the Twisted Ones, but I'm sure like Ozone or someone else has probably done a video on it. So go either watch a video summarizing it or read the book itself. I would recommend reading the book, but like I say, not everyone is able to just pick up the book if they don't already have it. So this isn't so much about the movie itself, but kind of more my experience. I had a really good time going to the movie. My cinema had like a small pop-up. It had like a cardboard box where you could kind of go in, a bit like I think they had for the Barbie movie, except it's the FNAF 2 poster with the toys, and you could go in and you could get a photo of it. I'll put a picture up of that on screen now, and also thank you to one of the people who worked there. The attendant was very nice and took the photo for me. But yeah, sorry if I look like a drowned rat in the picture. I got caught in a rainstorm on the way to the cinema, and I didn't have a coat because I am a moron and didn't check the weather forecast. Whilst I was there, I also got a free poster, which you can kind of see it on the wall there. I did not get the frame that used to have my Black Widow poster. I've just swapped it out because it has been like 4 years. I thought maybe I should change it. They also had the wheel that's in the trailers at Fazbear's. They had a like claw machine, which I did not win. I got a plastic ball. In the machine they had different colored plastic balls. I think there was yellow, green, and blue. I tried to get one of the green ones. You had like one go. You got one free go as like a part of this promotion. And it was right up next to the glass, and my kind of claw machine brain was like, yeah, no, that's not how claw machines work. Because here's the thing, I was thinking of it like an arcade where they're rigged. It's a free promotion, why the fuck would it be rigged? It's a plastic ball pit ball. So I was like, nah, if I try to do that, it's not gonna have enough grip, because claw machines are intentionally made to not have grip to grab the plushie until a certain amount is put into the machine. Yeah, no. I then just said, yeah, no, I'm gonna go for the most common ball pit ball, So I did not get the free t-shirt, which was a shame, and I'm hoping that when I go again, because I really want to go watch it again for a second time to kind of, which I'll talk about more when I go into the spoilers and stuff. There are some bits that I want to watch again and see if I pick up anything else, or to see if I pick up any more Easter eggs. So hopefully they still have that there, I can try again, and this time I am aiming for the green ball pit ball. I will have my t-shirt. Pretty much from here on out, it is going to be spoiler territory. If you have not seen the movie, I'd recommend just save this to your watch later and come back to it once you've seen the movie. Have a great time. Be respectful whilst you're in the cinema, by the way. Don't be calling out and yelling. That ruins it for other people. As someone who has, speaking as someone who had to deal with a bunch of teenagers going, I can fix her every time Toy Chica gets on screen, which, by the way, you cannot fix Toy Chica, for fuck's sake. Why is the world so fucking horny?
Shut the fuck up! Why is it always a sex thing?
Yeah, go watch the movie, be respectful, enjoy it, read the twisted ones. Trust me, it will make sense. If the movie will make more sense if you read the book. If it doesn't, don't worry. Go watch the movie, because now it is going to be spoiler territory. So if you do not want to be spoiled, like I say, save the to your watch later and come back. The video will still be here, hopefully. So I'll see you later. But now for the spoiler review. Editor Jaffa, maybe put up like a big spoiler alert thingy. One of my favourite scenes, more from a comedic standpoint, is when Abby is retelling the events of FNAF 1. Because it just sounds like she's reading a fanfic. And I'm not saying that as in like I'm not saying that as in, oh, Piper Rubio did a shit job reading that bit. I think that was the point. I think the point was, because Abby's portrayed as this kind of socially awkward kid, right? She didn't have many friends at the beginning of the first movie, and that's kind of like one of their main character points. Like, she's a very lonely child, which is why she values the animatronics so much. That's why she values her friendship with the classic so much. So I think that was the point, for it to be kind of she's socially awkward. I don't know if they intended for it to literally sound like she's reading a fanfic, but I like that because, first of all, like I say, it shows she's socially awkward. She's not good around people, which kind of helps, like, for a character, and it kind of shows why she would value the classic animatronics so highly. So I really like that scene. It was really funny. So I can say, I'm just there like, oh my god, she is literally reading a fanfic. Even though, like, obviously, yes, in the events of the movie that did happen, but it sounds like she's reading fanfic, and I love it. Also, Skeet Ulrich was a great Henry, did a really good job at showing how, like, mournful and, like, a really good grieving Henry. Because we don't have much characterization for Henry. In the games, he fucked over Edwin, and he was maybe one of the main inventors. We don't know, because again, he fucked over Edwin. How much is true? And eventually he makes the big sacrifice of burning everything to the ground, including his daughter, who is in the puppets, and his old business partner. And he kind of has that, I would say, like a redemption. That, like, FNAF 6 is his redemption, whatever you think happens before then. And then Book Henry is just a shitty father, let's be honest. I mean, like, not to blame him over, like, grieving over his daughter, but I mean, poor fucking Sammy. Like, I'm gonna make it so that, my robot daughter doesn't remember my alive son and thinks he's dead. I'm gonna delude myself into thinking that. Like, what the fuck? So it's nice to see some more characterization of Henry, because like I said, in the books he's already dead beforehand, so we don't get to see much of us directly. We only really see it through Charlotte's eyes. Skeet Ulrich just did a great job at doing the grieving Henry, and I love it. I really like that scene as well, because it just shows, I think that's kind of like the point where he's realizing how much he kind of failed with both his daughter and also if we were to apply this same kind of characterization of Henry over to the games, which obviously is a movie and they're very different continuities, we cannot apply everything one to one, but if we were to, thought experiment, if we were to, then that would also be the point where it's like, oh, I fucked over Edwin. Fuck. Like, it's the kind of point where he's realizing his mistakes. So yeah, I thought that was really cool to see. One of my favorite scenes, kind of going out of the theater, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie was Piper playing Abby possessed by Charlotte. I thought that scene was really creepy. And like she did such a great job, and I liked that it kind of felt a bit like in Help Wanted with Nightmare On. It kind of felt like that, but also kind of gave me Conjuring vibes. It's been a while since I've watched those movies, so I don't remember the full details. It's been a while, but it gave me that kind of vibe, and it was really cool. I really liked it. It was really creepy. Absolutely loved it. The fact that they used 1982 as the year that Charlotte died was really interesting to me, because in the books, in the Silver Eyes, it says that Sammy goes missing in 1982, and obviously that's actually the year that Charlotte died, because that's the whole twist of Twisted Ones and the Fourth Class is like, I didn't take Sammy, I took you. So 1982 in the Silver Eyes is the year that Charlotte died, and they then changed that in the Fourth Closet to 1983. So it's really interesting that they've chosen the 1982 year. And what I think what this is then telling us is it doesn't necessarily have to be 1983 or 1982 in the games, but I think this is telling us that Charlotte's death probably happened earlier in the timeline, because technically, if the movies wanted to, they could have just made Charlotte die after the MCI, or they could have made her die in 1985 or 1987 if they wanted to kind of go down the route of Charlie died last. And I feel the movies would have been a very good point to do that, because it wouldn't have any ramifications, and sure, the movie is a completely different continuity, and I do not think we can go, this happened in the movie, therefore it must happen in the games. And one of my main instances of that would be Vanessa, because I think it's rather clear that Vanessa is probably more to parallel Michael Afton. I will get to him in a bit, don't worry. I find it kind of interesting that they chose 1982, because they could have quite easily just done 1983, which is also in the books. The exact same trilogy of books even. So I don't know if that's just a case of it was in the Silver Eyes, we're going to go off that, we're going to reference that. Or if it was a case of, we want it to be obvious that she died early in the timeline, but we don't want to go, this is specifically the year. Or it could just be that they threw a dart at a list of dates and were like, yeah, this is the one. There's a part of me that kind of wants that, because I think that'd be funny, actually. When I left the theatre, one of my main takeaways was that the pacing was off, and I've kind of, since then, I've been looking at kind of other people's thoughts and opinions on the movie, and that seems to be one of the main issues that I've seen. There's some other ones as well, which I'll get on to later, but I think for me, the pacing was a bit off. I think the first half, maybe even like 2/3 of the movie was pretty well done, pacing-wise, and it flowed quite nicely, but then I think probably around about, I think at a certain point, I don't know when exactly I think it went downwards, but at a certain point the pacing kind of just goes. I think the point where I kind of realized, okay, yeah, the pacing is really off, was probably when Vanessa is going towards Mike's house just before her car breaks down. I think that's probably when I was like, okay, this now it feels the pacing's wrong. Maybe if I was to watch it again, I don't know if maybe I would think, okay, maybe it's a bit earlier, maybe it's a bit later. Why would it be later if that's the point where I recognise that? Maybe it's a bit earlier, I don't know. That's kind of when I was like, okay, the pacing feels wrong. For me, again, I'm not a movie critic. I want to preface that now. All of this is just my opinions as a moviegoer and as a theorist. I will say one of my issues that I kind of felt, again, coming out of the movie theater was Mike's quest felt a bit pointless because his entire, like, his plot kind of is look after Abby. Abby gets kidnapped. He goes to FNAF 2, and he's then working to break this signal from the animatronics and the puppet. That is his main goal. That's his main plot point, is him trying to break the signal and doing the FNAF 2 gameplay. But here's the thing. He breaks the signal, and then it's pretty much just immediately restored. And as I was watching it, it kind of felt like he broke them free from the puppet, and then the puppet regained their control, and then Michael Afton took over. That is what it felt like in the movie. Again, I haven't watched it a second time, so maybe there's some certain dialogues that I'm mixing up or something like that. Maybe they do explain it briefly. I kind of hinted at this earlier. There's certain points where I feel they could have expanded upon it, but they just kind of rushed through stuff. Explanation wise, so maybe they do explain it better, but it really felt like he kind of just broke them free from the puppet and then the puppet regained it. Watching through other people's kind of thoughts on it, and looking through what people have said online, maybe I kind of misinterpreted that, because from what other people were saying is that it was just Toy Chica who was still under the puppet's control, which makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that Toy Chica was only still under the puppet's control because the puppet was literally inside her. This is going to seem like I'm kind of hitting on the movie a little bit and kind of going, oh, I didn't like this about the movie, and I didn't like this about the movie. I didn't like the horror plush bear meme thing. I didn't like that. I thought I was going to watch a horror movie, and no, I just get given FNAF brain rot. I try my best to escape this stuff. And now you're telling me I've got to analyze it? For fuck's sake, Scott. Oh, now I'm gonna have to bleep that because it's a theory video and I don't swear in theory videos. Not fuck, because I'm not allowed to say that. There's a few moments where it's like you kind of have this cool scene, and it's like I'm gonna take the bootleg Freddy plush scene as an example. We have this deeply emotional scene between Mike and Abby where it's like Mike's kind of apologizing for lying to Abby that her friends are missing, but he doesn't know where, and he was just doing it to try and protect her, but like he sees that he's upset her, and like you kind of have this nice touching scene of Mike trying to kind of reach out and like be a good older brother and be a good like father figure. And then like we have this scene that, to be fair, is needed, right? We need to introduce the fan talker. So I do like the fact that he was like, I know, let's go choose out a prize from the prize counter and let's see if that cheers her up. I like that. I think that's really cool, and I think that is a great way to introduce the fan talker. It makes a lot more sense as well than it just being just something that just popped up at Fast Fest and Abby bought, which is what I was going into it thinking. Maybe it was that I wanted to believe that maybe it was like a prototype or something, and that's why it was so special. But I quite like that, and it kind of also feels like kind of a lot of Fazbear Frights, namely Fetch, where we go to a prize counter and we get this haunted device that is very important to the plot. So I quite like that. And then you just ruin it by Mike picking up a bootleg Freddy plush, which in itself would have been fine, but they make it go the horror meme, and it rips me out. And like, I get it, it's supposed to be funny, but it is not a comedy. This isn't a comedy movie, it's a horror movie. I mean, it's more a thriller. The way that I've kind of been thinking of the FNAF 1 movie is as like kind of baby's first horror, or more like a thriller than a horror. But it's like, this movie is FNAF is meant to be a horror first and foremost. Like that's kind of one of the main things. It's like then when we have so many scenes like this, where it's like, okay, this scene without this comedic line would be really scary or really emotional. Another one was when Twichika killed the teacher, which I think that one kind of works because in the games, in Ultimate Custom Night, in Special Delivery, the toy animatronics are kind of more jovial. They're meant to be more entertaining. As like part of their personalities. Like, where's my beak? In your forehead, of course. Like, it's joyous and more comedic, but also with the sinister undertones. So I quite like that scene where she squishes his head. It's like, oh, just as I thought, nothing in there at all. Which I kind of like because it does fit in with how the toys are portrayed in the games. But at the same time, it also does kind of rip you out of the scene a little bit. It just felt there was a few scenes where it's like, okay, it's really cool, this scene is really good, and it's either really creepy or really emotional, like, and then we get like a comedic punchline. It's like, we don't always need that every scene, because this is meant to be a horror movie. And I get like you want to have a few light-hearted moments, but we don't need to have every scene. And we don't need, especially the bootleg Freddy plush, we didn't need that. And for me personally, that's probably one of the scenes where I look back and I really didn't like that, because it was such a good scene and then they ruined it with a 5-second bit of sound effects. Like, I think it would have been fine if it had been, they go to the pros counter and Mike's like, oh, do you want some orange gummy candies? Or how about this Freddy plush? Looks at it, sees how horrendous it looks, because it's, I don't know if it was an actual bootleg or if they just made it to kind of reference the fact that there are so many bootleg FNAF merchandise things, and some of the most famous is the bootleg plushies. Like, you've got the Cyclops Foxy. So I think it would have been fine if he had just picked that up and go, oh, maybe not, and like tossed it to the side like he did. I don't think we needed to have the sound effect. I get we want to reference it because it's quite infamous within the community. I just think it ruins the tone. For me personally, that, like, I think it went down well, because quite a few people in the theatre did chuckle at it. But for me personally, it kind of ruins it a little bit for me, from the point of it is meant to be a horror movie. I will also say the withers weren't really necessary, and I know this really sounds like I am like kind of like really kind of going, this movie was terrible. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying the withers really weren't that necessary. I'm glad that we got them. I really like the withers. I think they are designed epically, but I think someone works out, like someone like timed it all. Apparently, and I have not fact checked this, so take this with a grain of salt. I will try and find the thing that I saw this on, but someone works out that the Cupcake, Mr. Cupcake from FNAF 1 had more screen time in the first movie than all of the Wizards combined. Now, I get it, in the first movie the Cupcake was more prominent because the Cupcake was kind of treated as pretty much just a ravaged dog with rabies. So, like, I understand the Cupcake is gonna have more time, but like, when they actually like worked out, I was like, okay, some of the animatronics are like barely in this. Like, Willy Bonnie was in like one scene. Like, we kind of had the scene where they're all lined up in the parts and service room, and then we see Willy Bonnie kind of going through the air. Then Mike shouts him, and we don't see him again. And it's like, I think it's a cool sequence, and I understand why the Wizards couldn't be more prominent in the movie. But yeah. Holy shit, I've been going for 48 minutes. I actually thought this would be a lot shorter. I know it seems like I've been dunking on the movie for a little bit. So one thing that I am so glad that they brought back. Doug. I love Doug. Doug is the best. He's precious. He's my child. I don't give a shit if he's an old man. He's precious. I am so glad that we got Doug. And I'm saying this with all seriousness. I loved him in the first movie. He is a national treasure. No, that's wrong. He's an international treasure. Doug is the best. I'm glad that we got him. I love that he is a great lawyer. I love Doug. We love Doug. We all love Doug. That is a universal fact. Okay, I think I've been talking kind of a lot about the middle of the movie for quite a while. I think it's about time we talk about the ending. So I really like us having Michael. I know some people had an issue with it kind of being right at the beginning. Like, oh, my name's actually Michael, it's not Mike. And we all go, yeah, that's Michael Afton. And I think if you are watching it as a casual moviegoer, not knowing anything about FNAF, I think you would pick up, yes, this is a bad guy from the simple fact of he went, welcome back, Charlotte, as he was running off. But I think because we are FNAF fans, we go, that's Michael Afton, the second that we see him. Because, let's be honest, look at these two images. Corporate would like you to see the difference. There is no fucking difference to us. Because we follow Mike in the first movie, we do not know that there is a Michael Afton as well. We don't know that Vanessa has a brother. That's like, I think that is meant to be the reveal at the end of the movie. It is not a reveal like, oh, it was Michael all along, he was a bad guy. I think it was meant to be a case of, yeah, you know this kind of bad guy that we kind of hinted at the beginning of the movie? Yeah, he's actually an Afton, and he is basically taking up the role of what I think would be an adult Elizabeth. That is what I think he is. That's what I think he is representing. I think the plot twist is that he's Vanessa's brother, and I think that is what is meant to be the twist. I don't think he's meant to be, oh, he's a bad guy. The fact that they chose to have him be fine with everyone else dying, a little scared for his own safety, which I know Dorka was saying that maybe they could have a redemption arc. I think that would be interesting. I don't know if they would do that. I think maybe they would give him, like, there'll be a point where it's like, oh, we can redeem you, and then he just does something that doesn't, like, he rejects the offer. A bit like we see at the end of the movie where, like, Vanessa's like, oh, you could have a normal life. And, like, he's like, no, I don't want that. I'm gonna continue on our father's legacy. I think maybe we could have something like that again. And ultimately that be his undoing. Because again, I think he's meant to kind of be almost like if Elizabeth in the games were to have survived, not get killed by Circus Baby, were to grow up, I think she would have more or less the role that we see Michael Afton doing in the games. I think that's kind of where it's going, because again, like we've been theorizing for a while that Vanessa in the movies is meant to parallel Michael in the games. That has kind of been what I think the general consensus has been. Michael Afton in the movies is meant to kind of not parallel, but represent kind of what if Elizabeth were to grow up and to have survived childhood. Because from what we've seen of Elizabeth as Circus Baby, especially in FNAF 6, is that she wants to please her father. She wants to kind of carry on she wants to carry out his bidding. That's what we also see in the Fourth Closet. And again, I think these movies really reference stuff and take a lot of cues from the books. I was saying about it in my prediction video, and like I was saying earlier, there are certain points in the movie where I feel you really need to have read the Twisted Ones. One of the things that I do not think will make slight sense, but not really, is the whole Showtime choreography thing, which I think if I had not read the Twisted Ones, and I did not understand that in the Twisted Ones, William Afton had a Showtime choreography program in all the animatronics as a part of the shows to make them all kind of stay kind of in time to one another, and so that the program to run properly, and so that we can have proper performances, and not be like kind of, say, Bonnie is 2 steps ahead of everyone else, and Foxy's like 8 beats too slow, or something like that. By the time the Twisted Ones goes round and William Afton is now springtrapped, he then uses that program that's in the Spring Bonnie suit to activate the Twisted animatronics, because it's by the same frequency or something, and use that to control those animatronics to go free them, and then we kind of have the twisted ones go off. They kill some people, a bit like we see the toy animatronics do, which is why I was saying beforehand I think a similar thing could happen, but the puppet be William Afton's replacement for the movie, which I got right. Yes, wrecked. I'm actually really happy with that. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. But yeah, I was saying in my prediction that I think that something like that would happen, and it did happen. Obviously, it was changed to make actually more sense with the puppet being the director of the animatronics in the regular shows. That is what they were meant to do. And that's why she is able to control the animatronics remotely. And that's why she has that control over them. And I quite like that. I think that's a really good explanation. And I think there are some points where they do it better in the movie than the games, but they just don't explain it enough, I feel. Because like that, I understand that perfectly well because I read the Twisted Ones. But I do not know if a casual moviegoer who knows nothing about FNAF, hell, maybe hasn't even seen the first one, it was just like, oh cool, there's a new horror movie out. Hey, that poster looks kind of creepy, I'll go check it out. I'm sure they'll explain everything that happened in the first movie in the first couple of minutes in the form of a fanfiction. I don't know if I would if I hadn't read the Twisted Ones and I did not know that already. I think that they possibly could have explained it a bit more, and it's why I'm saying you should probably read the Twisted Ones going into this. Another thing that I think reading the Twisted Ones will help you understand is in the finale, the classic animatronics kind of... No, I'm skipping to it ahead actually. Mike goes to the FNAF 1 location and calls upon the animatronics. And I know people are like, oh, this is kind of a bit silly. And they're like, oh, we get the Avengers Endgame ending. No, we get the Twisted Ones ending. Because in the Twisted Ones, and I don't think I said the calling out part, because I didn't see how they would do that, but I did say the ending. What in the books, John goes down to Clay's basement where the animatronics have been put, the classic animatronics, but they're withered down. They're a bit more withered in the novel, which is why, again, I was saying, read the proper novel, don't read the comic. The comic does change things for simplicity, and because there are certain things that you can expand upon and explain in a proper novel, but you cannot do in a graphic novel form, just because of the limitations of the medium. Which is what, like, I'm not criticizing. When I say read the full novel, not the graphic novel, that's not me criticizing the graphic novel. I think the graphic novels are pretty good. I think they're a nice read, but there are certain things that they just can't explain because this is a comic book. You can't. There are certain things that you can explain in one form, but you can't explain in another. It's just how media works. You kind of have John going down to the basement, calling upon the withered animatronics like, oh, Charlie needs your help. We can't do this on our own. Surely you will help us. You helped us last time. Surely you would help us again. And there's no answer at first. And then as they leave the basement, that's when they activate. And then they go to help Charlie. But then in the movie, we have Mike going to the FNAF 1 pizzeria, which is where they were left, because in the movie, there isn't a Clay Burke who was there to remove the animatronics and put them in the basement. So Mike goes to the pizzeria, calls upon the animatronics, and is like, hey, won't you help Abby? We can't do this on our own. You helped us before, surely you'll help us again. And there's no answer. And then we get kind of what people were going to the Avengers Endgame ending, which no, it is pretty much one for one to the books, where the classic animatronics arrive, and starting with Foxy, they start tearing apart the animatronics. And that's one thing that I really liked, is that they're kind of referencing the Twisted Ones ending, which I think I like more because I just love the Twisted Ones anyway. And they even kept to the point where it's like, Foxy is the first one to arrive on the scene, which I think they only did because, one, Foxy is a lot of people's favourites, and because Foxy has a hook and is kind of portrayed, especially early in fandom, as being the most fierce and the most ferocious. Just because he's a bit different to everyone else and because he's a pirate. So I really like that. It's not Avengers. FNAF, the Twisted Ones, did it first. So yeah. Shit, no, because... No, I think Infinity Gauntlet did it first. Damn it! It's not Avengers, it's Infinity Gauntlet. Ha! I really like the ending as well, of the puppet taking over Vanessa. And one thing that I've been thinking, and I don't know if this is because I already have the bias of thinking Vanessa parallels Michael from the games, is that this ending kind of parallels Sister Location, where this ending, I don't know if it's because I already have the bias of thinking that Vanessa parallels Michael from the games, but it feels like this ending kind of parallels Sister Location, where Ennard went in and took over Michael's body at the end, and we kind of had this last shot of seeing that Michael's eyes have changed. That was how we ended Sister Location. And then we kind of have a similar thing in the movie, where we have the puppet going in and taking over Vanessa's body, and we see her eyes have changed. So, I quite like that. Again, I don't know if I'm only thinking that because I already have that bias, and I had that bias going into the film, but I quite like that, and maybe that's a reading, maybe it's not intentional, maybe, again, like I say, it's because I already have that bias. But I honestly think it could be paralleling Ennard taking over Michael, and I quite like that as an ending. Also, another thing that I want to talk about, Henry could be dead. Because I've seen a lot of people talk about how Henry could come back in the third movie, and we could have a lot more scenes of him and William Afton. But if you listen to the end of the tape, but I didn't explain this, if you go through the whole credits towards the end, we get this kind of audio cassette tape, kind of a bit like a reference to FNAF 6. It's not the same type of tape, but they started the same, and it's clearly a reference to the cassettes from FNAF 6. But Henry leaves Mike a tape kind of explaining that he was William's business partner, and he created the animatronics and stuff like that. It's mostly stuff that we kind of already knew from the games. And right at the end, as he's warning Mike about the puppet and the puppet coming after him, we hear it sounds like he's trying to say it very quickly because he's in a hurry. And it sounded kind of like it was ending abruptly. Now, I think this kind of means one of two things. Either he was being attacked or he was being murdered. And I lean towards, I don't want it to be the latter, but I kind of lean towards the latter because that makes more sense. From a horror movie standpoint, I think they could very easily make it that Henry doesn't die, but I feel Henry might be dead. I think they're probably leaving it ambiguous, a bit like Edwin, to see how people react to it, and maybe they'll bring him back in the third movie. I think Skeet Ulrich as Henry will be in the third movie. I don't know if Henry will be alive in the present day. It might be a bit like in the second movie, we get some flashbacks, some dream sequences of Henry being alive, but he's not actually alive as the movie is taking place. That's kind of what I'm working off. I would love for him to be alive, and I'd love for us to have a FNAF 6 ending. I don't know if we're going to get it, to be honest. Okay, on to chapter 3, the fandom's review. So, I'm going to try and keep this short because I haven't done a whole lot of research. I've mostly just seen Johnny Blocks, Dorco, John FNAF, and Gibby talking about it. Also the Unwith the Truth, actually, because Unwith the Truth and Gibby recorded the video together. It was just on Gibby's channel. So, I've only really seen 5 different people's opinions on it. From what I have seen in general, both from those 5 people that I've watched this morning whilst I was kind of researching this, and from what I've seen on Reddit, it seems a bit split. I think everyone kind of agrees the designs are great. I think pretty much everyone seems to recognize there are some issues with the pacing. I will say, I think I agree a bit more with Gibby and the Unwith the Truth, who I will say we're probably a bit more cynical on it, but I also think I probably agree with them when it comes to pacing. It felt, especially from kind of the second half, it felt really off pacing wise. And something that Gibby and The Island with the Truth pointed out, and I didn't realize until they pointed out, but they're absolutely right, is that most of the major scenes were at least somewhat shown in the trailers. And I don't know how I didn't realize that sooner, but pretty much all the scenes where we see the animatronics, we see that in the trailers. Like, the apart from the bits where Michael, keep on going to say Michael, pretty much apart from the bits of the FNAF 2 gameplay scene where Mike is looking at the monitor trying to fix the signals, we see pretty much the rest of that scene in the trailers. Yes, we have bits cut out, but we see the majority of that scene in the trailers, even down to with Foxy about to jump scare him and stopping just in time. We see so much of this film in the trailers, which I don't think is a bad thing. I feel that I'm in split minds about it, because I quite like the fact that we saw a lot of it in the trailers. It helped us up, but I also think that John was right before the movie came out. They were showing too much. They were showing a little bit too much. I feel that they could have maybe saved a bit more for the film and not put all of it in. For example, maybe they shouldn't have shown that much from the FNAF 2 gameplay. I feel maybe they played their hand a little bit too much, but also on the other hand, it was nice to see that, and also it does give us footage. I think another thing that I saw a lot of people say about was there was a lack of screen time from the Wizards, and also Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie weren't really utilised. And I think I agree with Jorko. Yes, it is a shame that we did not get to see them, but also, have you seen the amount of animatronics that they had to fit in there? There's no way they're going to give everyone enough screen time, and they've got to prioritise Toy Chica because she's the one who's actually plot relevant, let's be honest. So I understand why they didn't give the others as much screen time, but yeah, it is a bit of a shame, but also I fully understand it. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about is my final takeaways of FNAF 3. Like I said earlier, I do like the film, but the thing is, my views on it as a FNAF movie and a regular movie are very different. As a FNAF movie, I think it's great. I think it has a lot of stuff in there that I think fans enjoy. And I do think that we did get some pretty cool scenes with the animatronics. I do think, especially Mangle had some pretty good scenes, and I really liked the way that they did the puppet with the possession. I think that was really, really cool. I really like the puppet anyway. In the games, I think she's a really cool concept. I really like her as a character. And then in the movie, they kind of took her. Yes, we didn't really get to see her being a savior, but also I think it makes more sense to a casual movie audience for you to not do that. I think it makes more sense to go down the way that they did. And I really like how they made her a lot more creepy, and they kind of added a lot of Nightmare On stuff in there as well. And I think the scene that I think cemented that view for me was the scene where young Vanessa is calming down Charlotte, and we actively see her tears go from kind of Nightmare On and kind of crying child like to like the agony tears to regular puppet tears. And I think for me that is really cool, because Nightmare On is a weird character. I love Nightmare On, but they are a weird character, so I really like the way that they're incorporating Nightmare On, because I think most people love Nightmare On's aesthetic and design, and especially I think the Help Wanted gameplay, but they're weird lore-wise, because they're kind of ambiguous in the lore, and like they're canon in the fact that they're in Help Wanted, but they're not canon to FNAF 4's DLC. But I think, if I remember correctly, Nightmare Balloon Boy was. It's like, surely Nightmare On would be, and not Nightmare Balloon Boy. So, yeah, it's weird. Nightmare On's a weird character, but I do really like the way that they've incorporated it into the puppet. So I do like the movie from a FNAF standpoint. I think as a FNAF movie, it's a great movie. And I think it is really good, and I think there are some pretty good scares in there. For example, the puppetlings were probably one of the few things that really got me, because I wasn't expecting them, to be fair. I kind of knew, obviously I knew the puppetlings were in there, I incorporated them into my prediction, but I didn't expect them to be active that early, because like I said in my prediction, I thought they were going to be kind of a last minute thing. Not last minute, but as in like they would be towards the end, towards the climax. Obviously I was very wrong in that, but yeah, I did like it, and it was one of the few things. So we got that jump scare with the puppeting, and that got me, and I think there are some really good scares in there like that. But I think from a casual moviegoer standpoint, as a regular movie, I do not think it fully works. I do think there are some significant problems. And like I was saying, like the pacing was a bit off. There are certain bits where I think unless you already have a base understanding of the concepts they introduce, which is why I say read the twisted ones, you're gonna be a little bit lost. Or at least you're gonna feel like, okay, I understand just about, but I don't fully understand what the hell this Showtime choreography is. So yeah, I think it's a good FNAF movie. It's a not good. I don't know. It's hard because I love it, but also I think there are some significant problems. But yeah, I think I stand by my 6.5 rating. One of the things that I really like about the movie, I don't think it's necessary for you to read them before going into it, but I really like the way that they incorporate Fazbear Fright's idea of agony and memories into the movie. I thought that was a really cool way. Especially because when I first read them, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Most kind of read them out of order, and like, there were certain ones that I hadn't read, and like I wasn't reading them one after the other. But then I've kind of been. I really like the idea of kind of memories being so important, especially with agony and remnant. I think it's a really cool idea. I love the way that memories and spirits kind of go hand in hand in FNAF. I really like that. I really like the way that they're doing that in the movie. So I think that's a really cool idea. And like I say, I think you don't need to understand Fazbear Fright to understand that. Because yes, because I've read Fazbear Fright and because I know FNAF and I know Agony, I can kind of go like, oh yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of that they're incorporating Fazbear Fright into this, but also it kind of feels enough like just, yeah, this is just how ghosts work. Duh. But it feels you don't need to have an in-depth explanation of it. I think the explanation they do give is pretty good, and I do like that, and that's one of the few points where I'm like, okay, yeah, I think they did explain this enough, because it's ghost magic. You can't explain that anyway, so it's like, you don't need much of an explanation, which is why I think like it is a good movie, especially from a FNAF standpoint. But then there are other scenes where it's like, yeah, you really need to explain that. For example, I keep going on about it, the choreography with the animatronics, I feel could have been explained a bit more. Also, this facial recognition didn't really get explained at all. Yes, we who have played FNAF 2 or watched someone else play it or understand FNAF 2, the game, understand that's like, oh yeah, that facial recognition system is bugged. There is a bug in the system. But in the movie, you're just kind of but in the movie, you're just kind of left to go, oh, well, they're broken down. Yeah, this probably makes sense, but there's no explanation of why the mask would work. If you don't know that, oh, well, when he wears the mask, they can't see, they just think he's an animatronic. They don't go, oh, that's a person. That's an adult, we need to attack. You're just kind of left to assume, which it's like, okay, yeah, that does work. But it's like, you could explain that. Like, we don't know why Mike even thought to make the connection of Freddy had animatronics. There was no explanation. It would have taken one sentence from Vanessa, like, oh yeah, also maybe use some masks. I've heard that it can, like, trick their facial recognition system. And then, if you don't want to explain that, you could just have Vanessa walk off and Michael like, what facial recognition system? And just have her walk off. You could just leave it as that. I would probably still have issues with that and say that you probably need to explain that more, but at least then we have at least a fundament. We have something that a casual audience can grasp upon. And that's why I think it works as a FNAF movie. It doesn't really work as a regular movie. And that is my main thing. It's a good FNAF movie, not a good regular movie. Okay, I also really want to talk about FNAF 3. I don't have much thoughts on it yet because I want to kind of rewatch it before starting to theory craft and the prediction of FNAF 3 because we're probably way off anyway. But I'm really interested on how they're going to take Vanessa's villain arc. Again, I made the connection between the ending of FNAF 2 and the ending of Sistification, and Emily taking over Michael and the puppet taking over Vanessa. I wonder how they're going to do that. One idea that I've had is because obviously they're not going to leave Vanessa to be a villain the whole time. At some point she's going to get redeemed or saved. I wonder, because we see in the movie that Abby does not die by the possession, but Lisa does. And I think the reason why is because Lisa is possessed for a long amount of time, and I think it is the longer you're possessed by the puppet, the more it affects you. I think that's why the puppet left Lisa's body, because she died. I think that's why. But with Abby, she was forced out of Abby. Charlotte was forced out of Abby before Abby could die. So it's like, that's why, because Abby wasn't possessed for all that long. So I wonder if maybe it's going to be a case of Vanessa's going to be saved, but it's going to be that is a bit too late. Maybe it's just going to be that she's like extremely injured, or maybe it is going to be that Vanessa's going to die. Something like that. I don't know. Again, I want to rewatch FNAF 2 before I can't make any predictions on FNAF 3. It's a way off anyway. Although, one thing that I will say, that no matter what, they kind of need to do is they need to bring back Doug for a third movie, and I already know how I want them to do it. I would really love if Mike or Abby or someone was kind of watching TV and they're just flicking through channels, and we get a commercial with Doug, just kind of advertising, like, oh, do you need a lawyer? Like that kind of thing. I would love for a Doug commercial to be in it. And like you could even have maybe like one of the things that they flick through is the Freddy and Friends on tour, or Fredbear and Friends, something like that. I think that'd be really cool. I would just love to see Doug again. I feel because they brought back Doug and they brought back Corey, I wonder if maybe they will bring back Doug and Corey for a third movie. So I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I really hope that they bring back Doug. I love Doug. I think we all love Doug, to be fair, because Doug is love, and Doug is life. And without Doug, what life do you have? I said earlier that I wasn't sure if Henry will return or not, but one inventor that we do know is going to return is William Afton. And we saw in the the mid-credit scene that they have found Springtrap and they're going to do Fazbear Frights. So, we didn't really get to see the design too much because he is hidden under a top, and I think they've done that on purpose, because I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't finished Springtrap's design. Obviously they will already have like a rough idea, and maybe they have done a Springtrap suit already, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more that they've got a kind of prototype design, but they haven't got like a finished full Springtrap design. But from what we did see, it kind of looked a bit like the Dead by Daylight design. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, because obviously this movie has been a little while in the making, if they already had the designs for Springtrap, because they would have had to design the suit to make the mid-credit scene, and then they kind of shared notes with Dead by Daylight, and Dead by Daylight kind of changed their Springtrap design to be a bit more in line with the movie than the games. Because like, if you compare the Dead by Daylight Springtrap to FNAF 3 Springtrap, they look different. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, they should have been more like FNAF 3. No, I'm saying they should be more like Dead by Daylight. The Dead by Daylight spring jump is just really cool and really creepy, and I love it. So I'm really hyped to see spring jump in FNAF 3. Again, we haven't really seen the full design because obviously not going to want to spoil it that early. We're meant to know this spring trap, but we're not meant to know this spring trap. If you know what I mean, like we're meant to know, oh yeah, it's William Afton's corpse in the spring Bonnie suit. We're not meant to know what that entails, or we're not supposed to know what that looks like. So I'm really excited to see that. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts. I've been recording for an hour and a half. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it's probably going to be on the longer side. Hope you enjoyed it being a bit longer. I just thought it'd be much easier to do all my thoughts in one video instead of trying to do 2 videos. One where it's just me going, yeah, the animatronics were cool. And they did a good job, and not elaborating on anything, and then having a separate video where I say the exact same things, but then I actually elaborate on it because I'm not afraid of spoilers. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know, what did you think of the FNAF 2 movie? Did you think the pacing was off? Did you think it was perfect? Did you like the FNAF designs? Let me know. What do you think? I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.